All right. Welcome back to the channel, subscriber. Bob Arum out there bumping his gums again, talking smack about Al Haymon, says he doesn't believe that Al Haymon thinks that Errol Spence Jr. can beat Terence Crawford. I can only assume that is why that he thinks that the fight has not happened yet. Let's talk about it in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. And that way you can be notified of when we release more videos. Also, thank you so much to the Patreons. We got a new video up there about for negotiations. The first step in any difficult negotiation you need to take is to define your BATNA. And that is a video that we have up. Definitely check it out. That applies to your personal life and your professional life. I think that you'll really find it valuable. Also, thank you so much to everybody that donates to the channel through the Cash App, through the super chat on the live streams. And thank you to everybody that shows up Monday through Friday for the live streams, and on Sunday morning, OG Boxing Talk. Now let's chop it up about one of the best subjects in boxing. I personally love fantasy matchups. I love having conversations about fantasy matchups. I put a video up maybe a week ago that's up on the channel about people saying that Manny Pacquiao is the greatest fighter of all time. If anybody knows me, knows full well who I think is the greatest fighter of all time. So we go back and forth about this, this mystery matchups and how you can compare one fighter to another fighter, who's better, why you shouldn't consider somebody 8 weight classes that they moved up as significant as a heavyweight. All those type of things we talk about. Fantasy subjects, subjective subjects. Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. right now is probably the hottest subjective subject that you can debate in boxing, between boxing fans about who's going to win. Is it going to be Terence Crawford? Is it Errol Spence? I personally lean towards one guy. A certain subscriber on the channel, Drink More Water, leads very heavily another way. So we just keep going back and forth and that is part of the fun of the sport of boxing. Bob Arum. And another reason why I think Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. are a fantasy matchup right now is because Bob Arum is blowing smoke. Bob Arum, my opinion, there's nothing Bob Arum has done that would make me believe that Bob Arum is serious about making a fight between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. I personally believe that Bob Arum is going to try to milk that out for everything it's worth. Continue to bring up the subject of the fight because it helps promote his cards. It helps promote Terence Crawford. It helps create a sense of expectation behind or inevitability behind a matchup between the two. And therefore, every time Terence Crawford is going to fight or there's a top ranked card or something like that, they bring the subject up because that sheds a spotlight on Top Rank. Now, Bob Arum saying that he doesn't think Al Haymon believes in Spence. This is coming on the heels of him saying that Al Haymon doesn't exist. Was that about 2 months ago? Bob Arum came out and said that he doesn't even know if Al Haymon is a real person. He also said that he was going to tell Al Haymon to call me. Not quite sure how a person that doesn't exist can call you, Bob, but hey. And then if he doesn't exist and you haven't spoken to him, how do you know that he doesn't think that Terence Crawford can beat Errol Spence? But I think what's most important, the question that's most important is, does Errol Spence Jr. think that Errol Spence Jr. can beat Terence Crawford? Errol Spence Jr. himself has said before he moves up to 154 pounds, he wants to fight Terence Crawford. He wants to clear out the 147-pound division. His next fight that he has that he's got to get past, by the way, which is not an easy fight, in Sean Porter. He's got to get past that to unify the IBF and the WBC belts. So it seems to me as if they have a plan to solidify those belts. Manny Pacquiao coming in there, though, might twist it up a little bit, because I still have a very hard time believing that Manny Pacquiao is actually going to fight Errol Spence Jr. There's a lot of people, as I alluded to in the earlier part of the video where I talked about this fantasy conversation that's been taking place on my other video. You can check out the video. I don't usually put them up here. I'm going to try. I'll look at the timestamp on this and see if I can put it up there so you can check it out. But there's a lot of Manny Pacquiao fans that will think that I'm crazy by saying that Manny Pacquiao won't fight Errol Spence Jr. But if Manny Pacquiao does fight Errol Spence Jr., that's going to put if Errol Spence Jr. gets past Sean Porter, I don't want to disrespect the state of Ohio by saying their guy doesn't have a chance. Any fighter has a chance in a fight. Okay, anything can happen. I just believe Errol Spence Jr. is going to beat him. But if Errol Spence Jr. gets past Sean Porter and Manny Pacquiao is willing to fight him to unify all three of those belts, after that, the only logical step for that after that is Terence Crawford. But if you look at it from the point of view of Al Haymon, if you look at it from the point of view of Errol Spence Jr., if you look at it from the point of unification, right, and from the networks, those two fights reasonably stand in front of the Terence Crawford fight. They're on the same network, and Terence Crawford said, what side of the street? When asked on DAZN, what side of the street? The top ranked side of the street. Okay. All right. There's not two sides of the streets, but there are two different promotional companies. And Bob Arum is talking about 50-50. From a negotiation standpoint, if Bob Arum right now says let's split the fight down the middle 50-50, that means everybody that's associated with that fight over on Terence Crawford, on Errol Spence Jr.'s side, is going to divvy up 50% of the revenue, of the net revenue of the fight, after all the costs and all that stuff are gone. I have to suppose. Well, if Errol Spence Jr. increases his leverage by getting two more of the belts, by beating Sean Porter, by beating Manny Pacquiao, and then he goes into the Terence Crawford fight, not only does that make the Terence Crawford fight much larger, it also means that Errol Spence Jr. is going to, for sure, get the lion's share of that cut. But there is one thing that can happen, I think, that could speed that along. Terence Crawford can leave that side of the street. He doesn't necessarily have to go to the PBC. He could represent himself. And then he's in prime position to have a major pay-per-view fight with Errol Spence Jr. that I personally think, if it's a pay-per-view fight with Errol Spence Jr. and underneath that scenario, it could be one of the biggest pay-per-view fights that we've had in years. I think that it could be definitely bigger than the Gennady Golovkin Canelo Alvarez fights. Definitely bigger than that, if that's the scenario. But as I said, man, look at the track record of Bob Arum. And under similar circumstances, okay? I know there's a lot of people out there that say that Bud has fought PBC fighters. That may be true. I wouldn't doubt it, right? There's a lot of PBC fighters. Terence Crawford can point to a fight between Jose Ramirez and Maurice Hooker and say, look, they worked that out. But you're comparing grapes and watermelons. Here we're talking about a fight. The similar fights are to Floyd Mayweather, is Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Manny Pacquiao. That's the similar fight. That is a fight where one of the biggest cash cows for one organization that can make a ton of money in and of himself, right? Errol Spence Jr. and those guys are eating real well, not fighting Terence Crawford. Floyd Mayweather Jr., Terence Crawford himself and Bob Arum are eating pretty well, not fighting Errol Spence Jr. There's nothing that's mandating and forcing those guys to fight one another from a monetary standpoint, because they already both stand well on their own. So in the case of, just like in the case of Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather Jr., they had pay-per-view after pay-per-view after pay-per-view after pay-per-view, all in anticipation of them matching up. But Bob Arum ran off 6-7 pay-per-views before then. Errol Spence Jr. can do at least two pay-per-views, which would be actually his third pay-per-view before getting anywhere near Terence Crawford, which could get people used to the idea that Errol Spence Jr. is a pay-per-view fighter and grow the expectation of the fight, and then they could make it. But that's the track. That's why I'm saying that you can't compare. You got to compare apples to apples. A fight between the fact that DAZN and Eddie Hearn worked a deal for Maurice Hooker and Ramirez, Jose Ramirez, isn't the same thing as the PBC working out a fight with Terence Crawford with Top Rank. The most important reason being that DAZN has never sued Top Rank. Top Rank and Bob Arum sued the PBC to try to shut them down. And they call for boycotts on the PBC. And just generally speaking, Bob Arum talks a lot of smack about the PBC. So, we'll see. I am less convinced that it is Al Haymon not thinking Spence can win, as much as it is that there's more things over there in the PBC for these guys to do. Bob Arum has sued the PBC before, and to boot, there's rumors that the Al Haymon and the PBC won't even be recognizing the WBO, who Terence Crawford's a championship of. So that WBO, the PBC has issue with the WBO belt itself. Anyway, we'll see how it plays out. I still think Bob Arum is bumping up at the lips. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Definitely check out the Patreon. Thank you guys. See y'all at OG Boxing Talk. And with that, I'm out. Peace.